How's it going, meatheads? We're back with you for another video to pump up your day with some motorcycle content. That's not a whole lot of motorcycle content right now because we are waiting for a train. And man alive, is it slowing down right now. In no sense having the bike running when you're going to sit here for a train that you don't know how long it'll take to pass. So we're just kind of chilling right now. Well, that's interesting. You gotta hand it to the guys and probably girls that like go up to these things and just are like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna spray paint it and see what happens. My uncle, he saw a like Darth Vader one that he still, I think, has a picture of it somewhere. I mean, it was really well done, and some of them you gotta be like, wow, that's crazy that somebody actually has the talent to do that. But I don't know, it makes you wonder where they're at or what they're doing, if they're actually applying that like artistic ability to something else, or if they are more or less just kind of graffitiing things instead. What I wanted to talk with you guys on a video about was some things that I've learned to not worry about so much since I've started owning a Harley Davidson. And now, for you guys that are new to the channel, I have a 2018 Road Glide Special here. I had a 2017 Dyna Street Bob before. I've consecutively owned those two bikes for 3 years. I will be coming up on year number 2 with this bike. And there's been some things that I've learned to kind of like let go of, coming from bikes that were, you know, other manufacturers like Yamaha and Honda. There's like quirks and weird things that you learn to just kind of like get over and are just there. They're part of the Harley Davidson like heritage or part of their build that are a little unnerving at first, or like you start to question whether or not that's how things are supposed to be. One of the things that I've kind of learned to overcome as a Harley owner is oil. You know, whether it be between oil consumption, oil out of the breathers, all oil kind of just ends up everywhere on these bikes. Like this bike does not leak oil. Like if I set the bike in the garage and let it sit for a couple days, I'm not gonna have a quart of oil on the ground. But what I found is that depending on how far you go with performance upgrades, you might find out that you burn a little bit of oil on startup, or they consume a little oil that comes out the breathers, so you might smell it every so often. You get an aroma of, oh man, am I burning oil? And then you realize that like that's just how things are, especially with how these bikes are designed. They are designed to end up taking a little bit of oil every time out of the breathers and consuming it, burning it, and that's part of like the breathing system of these bikes. So you kind of get used to the smell of a little bit of oil in the air whenever you start your bike. And I've gotten comments from people saying like, oh yeah, you know, it definitely smells like a Harley. So how far is this thing going? Oh, I see the end. Another thing that I've gotten over with having Harleys is valve train sound. I'm not sure what exactly it is about Harleys, but I tend to hear a little bit more of the valves moving up and down, and like not necessarily ticks or anything that's like, oh man, I should be really concerned about that. It's more or less like you hear the valves just like moving around and whatnot, and I never really heard it on like my Honda or on my Yamaha FZ07. Then maybe it's more or less to do with the fact that this is a pushrod motor and not a dual overhead cam motor with a chain opening and closing the valves. You know, I maybe it's down to that, but it's something that like if you're not used to that kind of a sound, you're like, why do I hear ticking and stuff like that from my motor and stuff, so you kind of get a little bit sketched out, and I'm stuck by the same train again. Another thing, as most people are well aware about with Harleys, is they run hot. They get hot. Even the new M8s, they get hot. You know, definitely not as hot as twin cams got. If you have your leg set in the wrong spot when you're running your twin cam motor, you're gonna get burned pretty, and you'll figure out where you need to set your feet, especially at a stoplight, once you've put on enough miles on a twin cam. M8 not so much. The M8 definitely is a little bit cooler running, but nonetheless, like in situations like this, you're better off shutting off your bike rather than just like sitting here and idling and producing a bunch of heat without a lot of airflow. That's something I definitely had to get used to with this bike, and also moving to Sioux Falls. There's definitely a lot more times where you're stuck in traffic, and when I had my Dyna, I hated getting stuck in traffic, so I would try to find different ways to get home that involved less stoplights, but you always ended up getting stuck somewhere, and you ended up like wide footing things, keeping your feet away from your exhaust or from your primary. It was always an interesting thing. Never dealt with it with my Yamaha, my Honda, but they're also liquid cooled bikes, so you're not going to have that problem generally. God, look at that cocaine that's just stuck up in there. Another thing that I did have to take some time getting used to with owning a Harley is just the sheer amount of like quirks and things that occur with it, and like not any specific quirks, but like when you hear guys talk about you know, there's guys that have been riding Harleys for years, and they're the guys that are on the forums and whatnot, and they're also a huge reassurance when it comes to like things that you're like, I don't really know what's going on. Why is this like this? Especially when you're coming from Japanese bikes that really don't have any quirks. They really don't have any personality, if you were to ask me. So those guys with the community that's around Harley Davidson, you can find a lot of useful information. And that actually is probably the biggest thing that I took time getting used to, is like, if you have an issue and you search it on Google, you're gonna find somebody that has probably either experienced it or has some sort of information about what you're experiencing. So it's always interesting to the fact that like if you have a weird thing that happens with, you know, say a not so popular bike like Triumph America, you know, the America, that giant cruiser, like there's not a lot of guys there might be quite a few guys around the world that have them, but like locally you're not going to find somebody that would know what's going on with that. Whereas Harleys, man, I got shops that could tell me what's going on. I got people that ride Harleys, that have ridden Harleys for years. They could tell you what they've experienced and how they've combated stuff. So it's always interesting, the huge community that surrounds Harleys, and even just specific motors that Harley has produced. Like there's M8 forums, there's Evo forums, twin cam forums, shovelhead, panhead. You go down the list, there's somebody that has built a couple or knows a thing or two about them. So it always ends up paying off that if you buy a Harley, if you're not sure of something, there's going to be somebody out there that probably knows how to diagnose or help you fix your problem. Probably one of the best things that it took time to get, not even like a lot of time to get used to, was the fact of like brand support for Harley outside of Harley Davidson. Like I'm talking like the aftermarket support for Harley is absolutely insane. Like I remember trying to find parts that would fit my FZ07, like plug and play stuff, and man, I had to do some digging. I had to find guys that like on YouTube that have done stuff so that I could determine, oh, does that part fit? Do I have to do a modification? Yada yada yada. Whereas Harley, you can legitimately just Google search Harley lights or Harley license plate brackets, or I gotta take it easy, I got new tires on here there, sir. And the other thing, like with the other brands, is that maybe like some parts are universal, like an R7 or an R6 throttle tube works all right on an FZ07, or you can use that. You know, you kind of have to, again, trust other people who have done the research. Whereas with Yamaha or like with Harley stuff, there's like 99% chance there's somebody, a company that makes something that you don't even have to guess. You don't have to ask an expert on. The other thing with the whole brand support and aftermarket support is, I don't like my grips, I can change my grips. I don't like my levers, change my levers. I don't like my windshield, can change my windshield. I don't like the plastic front fairing. Oh, somebody makes a carbon fiber one. Oh, I don't like the handlebars. Oh, I can find, there's a million different bars that could fit this bike, you know. Different gauges, different head unit, different bags, different. You could probably get damn close to building a bike, a Road Glide Special, from just a Drag Specialties catalog, you know. Maybe you need the frame, and well, that's all you need is a frame. Guarantee you could find the transmission, well, you definitely could find the motor. So a huge thing that is really awesome about Harley is that it's pretty easy to get used to, and if you go to other brands, you might be like, well, why can't I find new grips? There's all kinds of new grips for Harleys and stuff. That's pretty much going to do it for my list of things, guys, that it took a little time to get used to with Harleys, and both the physical aspects of Harleys, but also like the community aspects of Harleys. But if you have anything that you would add, please, I want to hear what you got to say down in the comments. You know, maybe I missed something. I guarantee you I probably missed some things. Maybe you guys have different opinions on the things that I have listed as far as things that it took you a while to get used to on Harleys, especially if you come from other motorcycles and haven't solely owned Harley your whole life. But let me know down in the comments. I think what I'm going to be doing now is just spending some time breaking in some tires, getting them nice and scrubbed up, since I got a new front and rear. And so I will be seeing you guys in another video. Topic to come. I hope you all enjoyed, despite me getting stuck behind a train. Yeah, hope you guys are having a great day. I'll see you later.